the spiritual part of my life started with Big Sean, the rapper Big Sean. I saw him one day and he was like literally glowing like an angel.
Really?
Yeah, I went to the studio and he was on fire. His business started to blow up.
Yeah.
His life did a 180. So I was watching from afar. His business wasn't doing great, and then it was rocket ship. And then I went to the studio with him, and he was glowing. Just being around him, you felt his energy. And so I go, what the heck are you doing, dude? Like, what's going on? Clearly, you've changed. He gave me 2 spiritual books.
You've kind of seen the spectrum of society. You've seen the spectrum of how a person can change from kind of fame to depression to finding various forms of spirituality, various forms of kind of emotional healing. You've been through all of it. And now you're in this kind of, it seems like this faith part, this faith kick. Is that rather new? Is that something that's always been brewing? Where are you there? And how'd you get there?
Yeah. Well, the spiritual part of my life, I didn't grow up with the spiritual part of my life. My father was Jewish. My mother grew up Catholic. She's since converted to Judaism. And my mother believes in God, but she had a really poor experience growing up Catholic. And she decided she was going to raise her children basically so they could decide on their own when they were 18. So we went to a Sunday school where we learned Jewish traditions and language and music, but we didn't really have a faith because my mom just didn't want to force that on us. So as a result, I really, there was no like sit down when I turned 18 either. So it was kind of just, she released me into the wild.
What'd you choose? Where'd you decide?
So
have
that's
that
the
moment.
funny thing is I guess I didn't choose anything.
Yeah.
Because I turned 18, 19, and I went into my early adult life. And I guess I just I didn't believe in anything. I didn't have a higher power. I believed in what I could see and touch and feel. And I had sort of a cynical, complaining frame of mind that isn't entirely unique in Jewish communities. There's like an archetype of like a complainer Jewish man. And not saying all Jewish people are like that, but there's that archetype. And I sort of was becoming a young version of that. I just kind of saw the worst in everybody, would complain, kind of make cynical, sarcastic jokes a lot. But this is really how I thought. And the spiritual part of my life started with Big Sean, the rapper Big Sean. I saw him one day and he was like literally glowing like an angel.
Really?
Yeah, I went to the studio and he was on fire. His business started to blow up.
Yeah.
His life did a 180. So I was watching from afar. His business wasn't doing great, and then it was rocket ship. And then I went to the studio with him, and he was glowing. Just being around him, you felt his energy. And so I go, what the heck are you doing, dude? Like, what's going on? Clearly, you've changed. He gave me 2 spiritual books. The Alchemist, which is an incredible book. Have you read The Alchemist? You got to read The Alchemist. How old's your daughter?
2.
Okay, not yet.
Yeah.
But The Alchemist is one of these books that probably when she's 8, if she's like you, she's going to be smart, so maybe 8. But for sure by 12, she can read and love that book. But at the same time, a 36-year-old can read it. And it's incredible. And it's a fiction book, but it sort of changes the way you see your real life. So that was my portal. And then I read a second book Sean gave me called Ask and It Is Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks. The introduction to that book was by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And there was a sentence in that introduction and it said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That kind of hit me. I remember reading that saying, whoa. So you're saying I don't have to look at everything through this cynical, sarcastic mindset that has negative tinges towards it. I could change. It was mind-blowing to me. Maybe that's kind of basic to you, but at the time for me, it was mind-blowing. And since then, my faith is the most important part of my life. You know, especially in challenges. I ask God or life. I use those words interchangeably. So life with a capital L. I ask, what am I supposed to learn from this? And there's always an answer. And I know I'm not alone. You know, I'm a wise person. I'm a fun person. I'm a smart person. I'm a clever person. But I always say I never created a planet. I never made a heartbeat. I never grew my hair follicles. I never made a sunrise or a sunset. So life did that. Life did all those things and way more. So I do my best, and I struggle with this, right? I do my best. I struggle not to do more than my best. So I do my best, and then if I'm doing a good job, I get out of the way and say I'm not in control. I'm in love. And when you have that kind of space where you're not trying to move every single tiny puzzle piece on my chessboard, more miracles can happen, and God can fill in the blanks for me. So that's it. I try to give control of my life over to God, and to be used by God. And go, what am I here for? How can I make the most impact? And also honor myself, because we're creations of God too. So if I really love God and I love other humans, God made me too. So gave me this body, so I should honor this. I should rest it. I should feed it the best food. And it's the only relationship that can give me total certainty. As much as I love my mother, my girlfriend, my sister, my best friends, they're all human. They're all flawed like I am, and their job isn't to look at me all day and ask what do I need, right? They have their own mission. None of those people can give me 100% certainty. They never can be there 100% for me 100% of the time, nor should they. But you can get that from faith. And it's the only relationship that can give it to you.
You said that this kind of interaction with Big Sean kind of spurred this spiritual awakening. When was that? And how long has this journey been going on?
That must have been 2011, 2012, around then. So 10, 12 years ago now. Yeah.
It feels like...
And there's so many permutations of it.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it feels different now.
When I started off, I was really into these very new age stuff, learning about manifestation and the power of your mind. And then I got deeper into meditation. I learned transcendental meditation, which isn't a faith. You don't need to be religious to study that. But I started getting more into Hindu and Buddhist traditions. I guess I've been kind of a dilettante, trying a lot of different things. And recently, in the last year or two, I've attended a lot of church services, which was surreal for me because I never thought I'd be there. But I saw a YouTube video of this live song called "The Blessing." Okay. By Carrie Job, and it was at Elevation Worship. I think it's a church in North Carolina.
Yeah, Elevation
in your hood.
Church. Yeah, my side of town.
Yeah, and they tour, right? Yeah. But there's this video of Carrie Job, and actually, before I saw the video, I heard the song played at a Tony Robbins event. And I said, that song. I asked the guy that runs the music, cello. I said, what was that song that was saying, "He is for you, He is for you, He is for you. May His favor be upon you and your children and their children and their children for 1,000 generations." What was that song? He goes, it's the Carrie Job song, "The Blessing." So I watched this YouTube video, and I couldn't stop watching it. I was watching this, and it's 12 minutes long, I think. And I was watching it multiple times a day, sometimes 4 times a day. It's a full hour a day of The Blessing, right? Because I would feel the Spirit of God when I heard this song. makes sense. I'm a musician, so. And then I said, well, I want to like be in rooms like that. So I started going to church in LA, and I love it. I don't go every week, and I struggle with the exclusivity part. So I've never gotten baptized because I struggle with when they say Christ is the only way to God. And Christ is a manifestation of God. Christ is God. And I don't know if I believe that. I know Christ is the way to God, right? I see it and I feel it, but I don't know if it's the only way. And so that's the only thing that stops me from like getting baptized. And
don't fall in.
Don't fall in, But yeah, man, that's been some of my journey.
Do you think that
and
has to do with...
At the end of the day, I think it's really personal, right? You want to have a relationship directly with God. And a lot of these problems that probably even I'm talking about, they're not God problems, they're church problems.
Yeah.
Because the church is made of people. Yeah. And just like I said before, people are flawed. So every church, every Buddhist monastery, all those things, they all have human flaw in them. So I don't know that Bible passage, but some where two or more gather in my name, I'm present or something. I'm messing up some of the word, but that is true. When even if I just get together one friend and we pray together, or we meditate together, or we do incantations, and we talk to God, there's something exponential about that from doing it on your own. So when I go to church and those people are singing the songs and they're gathered in the context of, hey, we're going to open up our channel to Spirit, is really strong. So I think you can only do so much on your own. So there's beauty in having some kind of community around faith.
Do you think
Sorry for the rant.
No, of course. That's what we're here for. Do you think that has to do with maybe your Jewish upraising versus kind of your shift towards Christianity, which is obviously similar but very different?
Yeah.
Do you think that's maybe why you're having a difficulty bridging that gap?
Probably. I don't think it's the major thing. The major thing I think is what I just articulated, the exclusivity part. But yeah, I guess if I was raised Christian, I wouldn't think as much about that. I'm not sure. I can't A/B it, test it.
Yeah.
And there's just beautiful like Yom Kippur is coming up, right? And I don't really observe that many Jewish traditions, but I plan to observe Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a day, is next week. I think it's Friday or Saturday. And you go a full day, starting at sundown to the next sundown, and nothing goes in your mouth. No food and no water. And you atone. So to make space for your next year, you look at everything screwed up this year. You ask God for forgiveness. Maybe you make some of the things right. And then you're clear to have this year. It's a freaking beautiful tradition. So I guess if I wouldn't want to not be able to do something like that because I've committed to something else, because there's beauty to that, and I there's no doubt that a tradition like that, when observed with intention and purity of heart, would bring one closer to God, So it's just really exclusivity trips me.
Yeah, I've struggled with that myself. Is that there are people that from various religions that believe with all their heart that what they believe is true. And it's not a question of they live the lifestyle, whatever it is that you believe. And it's really hard for me to think that, okay, that person who actively believes in their religion is going to hell because they don't believe this exact.
Yeah.
It's really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
At the same time, part of me is like, okay, well, that's why one is right, because it's not supposed to be easy. Or is it supposed to be easy? I get stuck in this religious theology loop all the time, you know, because I want to do what's best and I want to encourage people to do what's better, just not only for themselves, but for their soul at the same time. Like, I don't know if I'm the guy to be the evangelist because I believe what I believe, but like, how do I believe it strong enough where I'm willing to change other people's minds to believe what I believe? And maybe that's the faith part. I don't know. You know, I want to do what I think is right. It's not easy to know what's right, especially for others.
Yeah. I think that, there really is a conflict to know when give other humans the grace of and the autonomy to make their own decisions and say, hey, like, you know, maybe you invite someone to a church service, but you're not like, you need to do this, right? Versus, what if you saw someone really struggling and you need to be more forceful? Man, you need to do this. Where's that line? I don't have the answer either. You know, I'm thinking right now it's not an answer to your question or your conundrum, but I'm thinking about AA. It's this surreal thing where after all these years, still the most efficacious treatment for alcoholism is faith. Right? It's pretty wild, right? And not a specific brand of faith or version of faith, but some version of a higher power. Can't go through 12 steps without that. And they haven't made a pill or a other treatment program or something that's more efficient than that.